Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Samantha Kellgren. Samantha is a certified health coach with a background in personal training and run coaching and a healthy obsession with personal development. She believes putting your energy towards joy will change the world. She inspires women who feel overwhelmed and confined by their own expectations to achieve true balance so they can live the life they want to right now. This was such a good episode. We talked about what to do when a healthy obsession becomes unhealthy, how feeling not enough or that nothing is ever enough, so many obsessive things can stem from that, and how to deal with the real problem when you're overdoing something and nothing just ever seems enough, how to dial into the root cause of that and fix it so you can achieve balance in your life. Giving yourself time back, because when you're not planning everything around your, let's say, run, because we talked a lot about being obsessed with running or competing, which I talked about, you have more time to put back in your life and create a healthy balance with your loved ones and your relationships. It was just so good today, just talking about getting in that right relationship with you. And yes, we still love to do burpees. Yes, we still love to work out, but how to create that healthy balance between being a goal-oriented person and when is it too much? When does exercising or overdoing something become detrimental or dangerous or just subtract from what you actually want? So without further ado, we're going to dive into this episode with Samantha. I'm so excited to have Samantha Kellgren with me today. Hey.
Hey, yes, thanks for having me. I'm glad we can make this work so quickly.
Oh, it was perfect. It's my last show of the season.
Oh,
And I'm
celebrate.
ahead of schedule. So I was just so excited. I was like, oh, cool. We're going to talk about why you shouldn't be obsessed and over exercising to extremes. And I really just want to start off with your story, Samantha, about how you got started into fitness and how you found yourself where you were at on your journey when you decided that you needed to do more yoga.
Yeah, right. And I know from a running background, you either love yoga or you hate it. Everyone says, oh, it's too slow. It needs to be faster. Yeah, so I really got into, I guess, personal training first. Personal training kind of at the same time of running. So I never ran up until college. I was not a runner. I was not an athlete. I played the occasional softball. That was it. And really enjoyed running. I think I like the solitude of it. I'm fine to go out there and just have my me time. I always say I'm an extroverted introvert. So it was like perfect for me. And then I ran my first half marathon, I guess, during college. And then I moved to Chicago, where it is pancake flat. So very easy to you just keep going. There's no hills to stop you. I'm from Kentucky. and and I fell in love with it. I really did. I did my first marathon in 2010. And just I met so many amazing people running through different run groups or going to races. It was just this kind of community that I fell into, especially in a very big city like Chicago, to be on the lakefront path at 6:30 in the morning and run into 5 people that you know. I mean, that's amazing. It's, it was truly this interesting mix of being out on your own, doing your own thing, but still being in a community, of people that kind of speak the same language. And I was always very cognizant of, not just doing one thing. So I would strength train. I would try the occasional yoga class. It never stuck into my routine, but I would keep up with strength training. And I got my personal training certification. And then I got my run coaching certification because I loved coaching others. I mean, there was always just this aspect of helping people make not such a big deal out of fitness, not have it be so intimidating, you know, kind of break it down and have them, you know, I always said I wanted people to find their running, you know, maybe running isn't it for them, but to find something that's active that they just love doing it, you know. And so I ran 7 marathons from 2010 to like January 2016 was my last marathon. And we decided, okay, I'm going to go off the pill. We're going to try to get pregnant. And I had been on the pill for 13 years, 12, 13 years. I've been on for a very long time. It worked for me. It was an easy thing. I didn't have, you know, adverse side effects. So it's just something I took every day and didn't think about. So I come off and I don't get a period back. And I wasn't shocked. I'm like, this has been in my system for over a decade. It might take a little while to readjust. Well, after 3 months, I had nothing, not a hint, nothing. And went to my OB, you know, it's like, okay, I've been off for 3 months and nothing is happening, you know, and we did a test called the Provera Challenge. So it's essentially progesterone. They give you progesterone pills. Ideally, you will go off of them, and within a few days, it'll kickstart a period. And we tried it twice, and nothing happened. So at that point, she says, okay. And she said, you know, I see a lot of, you know, some runners are just high intensity. You may have to back off some of the running. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm like, I kind of hear that, but I don't want to hear that. Like, okay, I'm going to deal with that information later. And so I go to a fertility specialist, and I had no uterine lining. So there was nothing to bleed out. My body fat was so low that it had really stunted my hormones. So there's a word for it, and I didn't realize this later until I got a second opinion. It's called hypothalamic amenorrhea. And it's basically an energy deficit. I was not fueling enough to be running marathons, just the act of running marathons and then doing a boot camp class. It was just too much, and it suppresses your hypothalamus, amongst, you know, many other things, is your reproductive system, but it can affect sleep, you know, body temperature, and all these other things. And the only way is, well, I needed to add body fat. I needed to up my calories and cut back on the intensity of my running. Yeah.
Hard things for a runner.
Hard, very, very hard. And, you know, in hindsight, it's like, okay, that is what I needed. It's this weird mix because I still love the sport. I still love running. I still love a tough workout. I'm one of those people like you. I enjoy it. It feels good. I feel accomplished.
I freaking love it.
Yes, I feel strong. I don't dread it. Like I love burpees.
I do too.
You know?
It gives me like a charge.
Yes, I feel so good. And so it was just this fine line of what can I take from that is positive, but how can I make it sure that it doesn't get obsessive? And when I say obsessive, I mean, I would overlook if I really didn't feel like going, if I had a hamstring strain, well, I want to hit 30 miles this week. So I need to do it. Not training for anything. Just like, this is a random number in my head.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, and since I had been running like 10 years. So it slowly happened. You know, it wasn't like I ran one race and was like, okay, I need to do 30 miles every week. It was this slow build. It's like, what, put a frog and turn up the heat of the water and they don't jump out. It was one of those, I didn't notice, oh, I'm really kind of obsessive with this with this aspect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you agree, exercise is good. We're taught exercise is good, and it is, until it is clouding other things. Right. Exactly. And it's such a hard, such a fine line until you realize, okay, am I guilty over taking a rest day? Like, I didn't take unplanned rest days.
Yeah,
that didn't happen.
what's a rest day?
Right.
And then you don't even, when you get too into this, like, because you're preaching to the choir. Yeah. You don't even take rest days, and then you do 2 a days or 3 a day, or you just, nothing is ever enough. I literally have to speak to myself after having several injuries in menopause because I was overtraining. I have to say that's enough. That was enough. I have to talk to myself and say that's enough,
Literally, yes.
because
Yeah.
you think nothing is enough.
You were on this high. I remember one time running, I was near my husband's, like we're at my in-laws, and they live next to a really nice lake to run around. So I was going to go run around it twice. I ran around it once and like was feeling so good. So I started my second time. Well, I kick a rock and fall, what must have been on a rock, because my knee is just, there's a lot of blood. And I call my mom because I'm so mad I can't finish my run. And I'm like, you basically are going to have to tell me not to try to finish
Got
this
mad
run.
too. I got so mad when I ripped my hamstring from the pelvis.
Yeah. I'm like, I was having a great run. This good song was on, and now I got to walk a mile back. And like, I mean, and just that adrenaline that's going, you feel so good. But to be like, I am bleeding from the knee and I still want to continue, like that
is
not
so,
sane.
yeah.
No sane person would be like, yeah, you could probably finish it.
Yeah, no sane person would go compete with a completely blown hamstring. Like,
Right, I'll be fine. You see, how many limping runners do you see? Like they're like, I can make it. I'm going to be
and
slower,
they
but I
tape
can
their
make it.
feet so they can run, and they
Yes,
should be taking, like, wait, I should be paying attention to my feet. Why
but
are
it's
my feet hurting?
honored. I mean, it's like, oh my God, like you're a badass, right? You know, like you ran with the torn hands. That's crazy. That's amazing. And it's like, but it's not smart. It's not, doesn't mean it's good for you.
Oh my gosh, right? I didn't realize it was fully blown. Let me clarify.
But it didn't feel good.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't feel good. It was the night before I had to leave for the show that it happened. I was practicing late at night,
Oh,
and I was dehydrated, and suddenly my husband wanted to video. I knew better. I shouldn't have,
oh,
because you're
yeah.
not supposed to perform full out when you take your water off, and
Mhm.
only once, not 4 or 5 times.
Right.
And so I went to the show thinking, well, I don't know what I'll be able to do. And I went to cryotherapy every day, and also just worked on my mindset, because they gave me misinformation and said it was just bruised, but they
Uh,
were wrong. It was completely,
oh my God.
completely, completely blown with bone fragments.
Oh my God. How did they miss? That is
Yeah,
being very
right.
wrong.
So I'm glad now after the fact, because I went and did my best in 18 years on up open fitness that I have ever done. I was
Wow.
ready for the show, and
Uh,
also scored second in bikini at Masters. So I was happy, but I was also not happy, because
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
devastating then to know I have to have it reattached.
How
I have
long?
to
Yeah.
then not I wasn't allowed to use my biggest coping mechanism, let's call it that,
Hmm.
uh, because that's why we were probably obsessing with fitness. I wasn't
Hmm.
allowed to use it for 4 months. I had to be
Oh.
harnessed to 90 degrees, sleep that way, not allowed to work out, because your bone and muscle are trying to adhere.
Mm.
So, and why I say this too is when we're working out this much, when we love it, I still love it, and I still have to say that's enough. And I'm bounced back now, so I'm
Yeah.
been more mindful. But you have to ask yourself, why is nothing enough?
Uh-huh.
Why am I in this not enoughness space? And you got to go on a personal journey. So how did that look for you
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this moment with your knee?
God. And like saying that if they tell you 4 months, that's like an eternity. I mean, when they were like, well, you need to cut back on running. I mean, it was seriously like, well, just cut my arm off, because that is what I enjoy. That's my hobby. That's who I am. And being a run coach, I'm like, this is who I
I'm a running coach
am.
too.
I'm
Okay,
known
yeah.
as a runner. And so there's like an identity piece of it.
Yes.
Um, there was, like you said, coping mechanisms. It's
Yep.
like, okay, what can I do now? And the thing is, you need something at least I needed someone to tell me you can't do this, or you can't have a baby. I mean,
Right.
that's what I
Yeah.
wanted. That,
Yes.
and even with doing IVF, because like I said, we didn't know there was a name for this. I was like, oh, my running's somewhat impacting this. I wasn't so clear on, no, this is how all this is tied together. This is the reason, but once I realized that before IVF, I'm like, IVF is not just like a magic pill that, well, you can keep doing what you're doing and this will work. No, I was like, I need my body to be absolutely ready to carry a healthy pregnancy, to make sure my eggs are healthy. If I've got this energy deficit, I can't be making quality eggs, because where is that energy coming from? So it had to be in that perspective. And, for a while I cut back. I was like, I can't go cold turkey immediately. I'm like, I know myself. And so I would walk, and then I cut back from 30 miles a week to about 10. So I would just go on like 30-ish minute runs. So I could still get that kind of fix. And before we went into that last round of IVF that worked, I remember specifically I was drying my hair, and those Facebook memories that come up, and it would, I would see me like at a race, at a finish
Oh, it
line.
kills you when
Yeah.
those memories come up. Oh,
Yes, and Garmin, 18 miles in this pace, and I kept thinking, oh, I can't wait until I'm that fast again, or see a picture. I can't wait till I'm that lean again. And then it hit me. I'm like, well, I'm just seeing that side of it, but let me think of what that moment was really like. And there was a lot of anxiety around making sure I get those runs in. Oh, family's coming to visit. The first thought is, well, when can I do like, how am I going to get this in? Or being invited out to eat. And like, I was very strict with my calories, and I didn't need to be, but I had just walked into that way. And so I was like, well, I've got a lot of stress around that. That's not fun. There's a lot of stress here that I'm kind of been blocking out and ignoring. And so that really changed it for me. I was like, I'm just getting in my way. Like, this isn't helping. What is 3 runs a week doing? Is it a control thing? And so once we were pregnant, I decided not to run through the whole pregnancy. Now, it is safe to run during pregnancy, but for me, I needed that mental, make sure I do like running. I've been doing it for so long. Am I just doing it? You have all these thoughts. Let's see what I do without running. And I fell in love with I still run, but I take daily walks now with the dog like twice a day. And it delivers so many of this. I would have rolled my eyes, by the way, 5 years ago, if someone saying this, but truly it provides a lot of what I was searching for. That time alone, that time outside, time to listen to my music, my podcast, not talk to anyone, time to move, to get my heart rate up. It provided all of those things. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And the longer even if it's not cutting it out, if it's cutting back, the longer new routine, it doesn't feel weird. It's like, well, this is my new routine. Like, I just need, like, routine is what it is. I need to move. And just realizing that how your phases of life change. Well, if you want to get pregnant, most women, you need more fat on your body. Like, you need more fat than, if you're doing competition, right? Insanely lean. It's a very fit and lean body, but it's not exactly a fertile body. And just coming to terms with, okay, this is my big goal now. This is like what I'm training for. I'm training my body to be in a way that is able to get pregnant. So looking at it in that way really helped, of like, hey, there are times, right? Later, when I'm done having kids, then I don't have to worry about, oh my God, am I too lean? Right? As long as my mindset's there. But really looking at where my mind was, of why do I need this? Can I just run when I like it? I got back into running here. We moved since then to Asheville, North Carolina. And I went for a run. I don't know what time of year. It was probably July or something. And I went for a run, and it was just not a great run. I was just not. And it was like kind of pushing it. I was like, this doesn't feel great. Like, okay. I'm just not going by fast. And I get back, I'm like, and I've got all these emotions over it. To my husband, I'm like, do I just not like running anymore? Like, is it because I'm slower? Is it because I don't go? Like, why was that so awful? Maybe I'm not a runner. And he goes, well, it's like 85% humidity. I'm like, oh yeah, I just didn't like running in the heat. Like it doesn't mean anything, let me wait until the weather's nicer. I went out when it cooled down and had one of the best runs. And it's like, oh, I don't have to force myself to run because I think I should. I need to check out something off. It's like, do I feel like going for a run today? And if yes, then I do. If not, then I don't. And it's so much easier than trying to hit those mile markers that were totally arbitrary, right? It's different when you're training for something. If you're training for a race, but you're training for a race, that would be like 3 months, not every day for 12 years. It's totally different.
Hello.
Yep.
So, oh my gosh, I so relate to everything you're saying. I can remember running when I was getting ready for WBFF, which was a lot, a step up basically in what I needed to do. I was always a Fitness America, Fitness Universe girl. So then I'm like, okay, we're going to the big leagues, and I was training way harder, way more. And I remember running one day and I started pouring blood.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And not just once, it happened a few times. And that right there should have been, they call it something. It happens to runners when they run too much.
Yeah. Right.
I can't remember the name for it now, but right there would be your wake up call that
this is not normal. Yeah.
you got your mindset on this show, but is it really worth that?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Right. I actually just did, so I have a Facebook group, and we talk about these things. And I almost call it like a reverse health coaching group. It's like, okay, look, you need to rest, instead of like, no, you can do it, go out for the workout. It's like, no, listen to yourself. You need to rest. But I kind of talked about this yesterday, just thinking of, for one, it being a huge red flag and being able to listen to those red flags, but for one, when you're setting a fitness goal, whether it's a physique goal or a time goal with a race, or whatever that goal is, I always recommend, okay, before you set it and get into training, make a list of your values and your non-negotiables. Okay, if I start turning down brunches with my friends, because that is my favorite thing that keeps me happy, if I start turning those down, something has shifted into a way I don't like. But you can't see it when you're in it, because you slowly turn down one. Right. So if you look at those things beforehand, okay, this is important to me. I really want to hit this goal, but these are things that I'm not willing to sacrifice when you're in a sane state of mind. Because when I ran marathons, it was just my husband and I, and we'd been together a long time. I was totally fine to get up and spend 4 hours of my Saturday morning running. I have a 2.5-year-old now. I would rather get up, spend the morning with them, and go on a hike. That's my priority and my value right now. And that could change in 10 years. But for now, the priority and my biggest value is not adding another marathon. It is spending time with my 2.5-year-old. So it's really looking at that. Okay, it doesn't mean that you can't go after this physical goal, but make sure it stays in the circle that you want it in, that it doesn't balloon up and kind of take over everything.
So you were running. What were you chasing?
Right. Right. It's so interesting when you think about like, okay, are you, and everyone comes from different kind of reasoning, right? But like, what are you escaping? Why do you think that this is the only way to deal with the feeling, right? Are there other things you could do? I mean, meditation, I do yoga now. And it's so crazy that I thought that running was the only stress relief. It's like, well, running's my stress relief. Well, yes, it is, but there's also a lot of other tactics that you can employ that you've just not tried.
Right. And I mean, I'm not saying you can't be a marathoner and you can't be a fitness competitor. You can be all those things. You just really have to listen to your body and know when to draw the line. And I think when you're going for a goal, sometimes it's hard for you to see that. That's why working with a coach can be helpful, because they could be like, as long as you're honest with them, you have to be honest.
Right.
They're going to tell you, you don't need to run 12 miles every day, Linda. You don't need to do
Right.
that,
Well,
Samantha.
and it's not your husband saying it. It's not your mother saying it. It's someone that, for one, is a third party. They don't know your entire history. They're not going to say, well, this is what you always do. They're going to say, no, let's look at from a very objective standpoint. This is crossing a line. This is not going to help. I mean, you think of, especially with, when I talk about rest and how important rest is, I mean, why do you think marathon plans, any endurance race, has a taper? It's because you've got to rest to be able to
Right.
perform your best.
You actually perform better if you
Yeah,
rest.
no, you always feel
There's a
amazing.
point where you don't get results. You
Mhm.
actually go the opposite direction when you overtrain. There's
Yeah.
a point that you cross over.
And I
So,
get it. It's counterintuitive. I mean,
yes.
every right, 7 marathons, like 18, maybe half marathons, every time, days before the race, I'm like, how am I going to do this? I haven't barely even ran in a week. And it's like every single time, that you're going to feel amazing when you run because you're resting now. But we think we need to do more and we feel guilty. That's another thing I definitely work with pretty much all my clients with, is that guilt over lazy is this 4-letter word of I'm lazy. And it's like, no, you are reading a book on the couch on a Saturday. That is not lazy. That is, you are enjoying your life. You don't have to pack every moment. You don't have to, when we talk about rest days and not taking them, people that, I say people, right? Looking at me, that take a quote
I
unquote
still
rest
have
day.
trouble taking a full
Well,
rest day.
but you take a rest day and you do a 90-minute hot yoga class
Right.
and you go on a hike and you go kayaking. And it's like, okay, that's my rest day. It's like your body is not rest. Your body doesn't care what you call it. If it is being active.
Active rest.
Right. And it's not like, oh, don't move, but you don't schedule anything into your day to make up for the fact that it's a rest day. Like, do what you want to do. If you want to do yard work all day and that's what you're looking forward to, and that's like a stress relief, great. But don't plan yard work because you have to get your steps in. It's a same activity, totally different mindset.
And I also like to say, when we focus 85% on our nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
working out is a part of that, but it doesn't have to be so long and so much.
Oh my God. I mean, and I love when they call, and I get it, but since most gym classes are an hour and they call any 30-minute gym class an express, it's like, if you're doing it right, 30 minutes is fine. Like, you only need 30 minutes. If you are like putting in the effort, 30 minutes is fine. Going all out for an hour every day, 6, 7 days a week, you're breaking down, and you're not, like you said, you're not going to get the results. When are your muscles repairing if you're hitting them the next day? Even if it's a different way, you're still hitting them the next day. And when you talk about training, it is looking at it as, okay, I've got this very specific goal for an event. Well, this is my time frame to train. And something I like people to do is, okay, what is my plan for after this event to make sure I don't slip into continuing at that level? Because you've been used to it for so long, it feels like you're cheating or something to not to take days off afterwards because you're so conditioned. But to have something in place where it's like, okay, I've really got to pay attention to after the event to make sure I'm allowing my body to recover and to get into a more level place. I mean, you always joke about, especially in marathon training, when you say to someone who isn't a runner, like, oh, it's easy, I just have 13 miles today. And it's like, who says just 13 miles, but a marathon or endurance runner, right? Like 13 miles to someone is like, what?
Yes, when I was at the doctor and he's looking at the hamstring, deciding whether they're, because you have to be a candidate. They don't like to give the surgery that I had to people. And he said, well, I mean, it looks like you're a jumper, but like maybe you have tendonitis, but only runners get tendonitis like that, long distance. I'm like, well, is 12 miles a day qualify?
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. And so, yeah. I mean, how do people, when they have their fitness obsession, how do you think this detracts from what they can actually accomplish in their careers and how they're enjoying their life?
Yeah, well, it's when it takes over, right? It's when you are only prioritizing that fitness. It's when that is your biggest priority, and okay, I'm going to let other things slip, and you don't have the physical or mental energy, right? The creative energy too. I mean, I think of, with my coaching, if I was primarily focused on getting all of the fitness in that I was before, and the meal planning and just thinking about calories and researching, quote unquote researching, right, of like things I should be eating and all of that, when am I going to be out meeting people? When am I going to be looking and reading into how to be a better coach? When am I going to be connecting with people? It's not going to happen as much because I'm going to be totally drained. And thinking of, I had a client that she took a new position at her work, and it's not that she wouldn't have taken that position had she been as into running and fitness as she had been previously, but she was like, oh, it would have been a thought of, okay, when can I get these workouts in with this new job? And the first week on the job, when you're going in early and it's really, emotionally and mentally draining, she's like, I probably just would have gotten up at 4:30 to make sure I got the workout in and then gone in. And it's like, you could take a week off, get settled, and then get back to it. But that is unheard of if you are that obsessed with getting all those workouts. It's just these small ways. It's usually not even a huge, oh, well, you're going to be passed over for this job. It's going to be clicking away. You're not going to get to know your coworker. Not that we go out anymore, but if you are always turning down, if you're always turning, like, I'm not going to go to happy hour, it's not worth the calories. I could be training. So there's a whole group of people you're not going to get to know as well as you could, because you're only focused on how can I like optimize every moment that I have on my body.
Now, what do you think the mindset shift, what do you think the mindset shift is that it takes to prioritize your health without allowing it to become your only focus?
Right. I always have women do this exercise of, okay, let's look at your bigger picture, and let's list, I always have them list at least 5 qualities about themselves that make them an amazing, daughter, mother, spouse, friend, that have nothing to do with their fitness, right? And one of my friends was like, oh, well, my friends would say, that I'm in the gym a lot. I'm like, but that's not why they're friends with you. What makes you fun to be around? List those 5 qualities and you'll see that none of them are like, well, she's motivated and in the gym. that's that's not gonna be their first thing. Even if they say she's a runner, they're not like, she's so awesome, you got to meet her, she's a runner. Like, no, like, oh, she's so funny, or it's other things. So looking at that picture of who you are, and then looking at the other interests. For one, if you haven't always been into health and fitness, what did you do before that took over? Look at those things, right? And make sure they still have a place. Oh, I used to read a lot. I used to have downtime to read a lot. I used to cross stitch. I used to, oh my God, I used to plan brunches with my friends. We would do a monthly like cookout. But yeah, I guess I don't do those things anymore. How can you bring those back in? And like I said, looking at, look, these are priorities. If these start to slip, then it's kind of taken over. So making sure you've got this wealth around you of other hobbies. So when someone says, oh, what do you do? You're like, oh, I run. Okay, cool. What? No one wants to hear about your training plan, right? For longer than 1 minute. And just thinking of even that when I would run at Run Group, we wouldn't talk about running. We would run for an hour and talk about everything but running. It's probably the least interesting thing about you, right? Someone might want to be interested in, oh, what are you training for? Other than that, they want to know so much more about you. And if you're having trouble thinking of that, for one, that's a sign. But 2, just think of, what do you read about? If there's, you're just browsing Instagram, you're on the internet, articles that pop up, what do you like? Oh, I need to know more about that. What do you gravitate towards? What documentaries do you watch? What shows are you into? Look at the bigger picture, and that is just a piece of it, because it's not healthy when it takes over, right? It's healthy, like you said, up to a point, and then it's too obsessive.
What do you think are the red flags to help people know when their healthy eating and their fitness has become an obsession.
Yeah. Guilt is a big one. So guilt over rest days, even guilt over, okay, I use a specific example because I put it out there and I had multiple and be like, oh, that's me. So you go to a fitness class, you go to your favorite boot camp, right? And it's a sub instructor. And you think this was not as hard as it usually is. So you go run an extra mile to make up for it.
Oh my God, that is totally
Yep.
me.
I know, me too. And when you're doing that every time, because what's the fear there? Why wasn't it hard enough? What's going to happen if one day this week it's slightly easier? What is wrong with that? So just thinking of those things, right? If you've got guilt around, I have a lot of food rules. So, okay, there's something spontaneous. Your neighbor invites you over to eat, or your parents come in town and you were going to cook, but something gets burned, so you're going to go out to eat. If you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to order, that's what I had planned for, and it's a big deal, it feels very big, and you have to make up for it, that's unhealthy. That's not a great relationship. When you're constantly negatively comparing yourself, how could you be better? How could you look better? And we do these things, right? We think, in what ways is my body not exactly how I want it to be? And I want you to think about when you go out and you're somewhere, you talk to someone you don't know, you strike up a conversation, and you come back home and you're explaining to your friend, oh yeah, I met this woman, she was really awesome, blah, blah, blah. It's not that you didn't notice what she looked like, but what is staying with you is your interaction and their personality and what they had to say. It's not, oh my God, and this is I think she weighed this much. And, but we think that everyone else is noticing that about us. So really start to look at your actions. Like, do I think this about other people? No one's thinking that about me.
It's like we're chasing, as my friend would say, this fictitious person
Yes.
that we want to be or that we think we should be.
Right. And it's when you're not, I say when you're not enjoying your life, but that's such a vague thing, because I did enjoy running, right? But think of any other time that, okay, could I have given up a run for something that would have been more fun? If I was invited to go camping for the weekend, or, I said, we go hiking here a lot, to go on a hike. Would it be, oh, I'd love to, but I've got to get to that 9 a.m. gym class, or I've got to figure out a way to get my run in, when you've never been camping with these group of friends before and it sounds amazing, but you're like, that's something that's off. What's your bigger priority? Especially when you're not training for anything. That's a big thing. This is just a regular workout, but you're not willing to change it up and push it aside one day to have an experience with your friends. So start looking at those things. And like you said, be really honest. Be really honest with yourself. How do you feel in those situations?
Oh my goodness. Like, I can just see it. And we hook ourselves to this perfectionism of what we want to look like. We're attributing so much to that part of the package that we're missing all the other things that we are. We're missing all of the other ways that we connect with people other than just the way that we look. And that is a lot of things you're leaving out there.
Yes, it really is. And like I said, no one else cares but you. And I've worked with women, especially looking at the identity piece of it. Especially I always bring her up because it was so just like, I couldn't have made this up. It's so perfect. She was a, well-known runner in her community. She owned a gym, and this fear around, or concern around, okay, if I'm not running, if I'm not competing, what are people going to think? I'm like, they will probably ask you, are you running this race? And you'll say, no, I'm focused on something else. And that will be it. They're not going to go home and like discuss it with their husband that, oh my God, guess what? No, like, it's such a big deal to us, but think about what you know of your friends' workout routines and how much you care if they skip a run. Like, no one cares.
Yeah. I knew I was getting better when somebody wanted me to compete, and I said, no, I'm focusing on putting my gym together and putting it up right now. And when the gym was up, I'm focusing on other things right now. And, sometimes I did early on feel pressured when my doctor was asking me, because they're used to you being the fitness competitor, and now who are you? They want
Yeah.
you to be this person that they have this label on. But you
Hmm.
know what? You don't have to, you can thank them for that gift and just give it right back. And you don't have to jump into something just because you feel pressured to be a certain way or to be the same way you've always been. You can just hand that right back to them and do what's healthy for you.
Yeah. And that's why it's really important to almost like, when I say write these things down, I mean it. Write these things down so you can, when you're having that low moment or moment of doubt, that you can go back and like, no, this is my path. This is what I'm doing. And especially early on, if you're trying to really like take a step back, because it is way too easy to say, well, after this one, or well, this week I can, yada yada yada, it's a year later and you haven't cut back at all. To come up with another project to work on, to make sure you have something specific to focus on that you can kind of throw yourself into. If it's getting another certification in something and you're going to spend your time studying and training and have this different focus, that's going to take your time. I mean, I always suggest just a project or something that has nothing to do with your body, with health or fitness, something to get into, joining. I mean, even though, our lives are kind of on Zoom now, can you start coordinating like weekly or monthly events with your friends where, you're kind of putting this creative energy into something that is bigger? Can you volunteer? I mean, I know it's kind of a weird time to be volunteering, but there are ways to get involved that will still take your time that you can do virtually. Or socially distance and meet up to do, but to invest in something that is bigger than you, that have other people depending on you, so you can't flake on it. Like set up those accountability checkpoints. And this is where a coach comes in, because they're going to call you on your bullshit of, no, you said like, this is our plan, this is the workouts we're sticking to, or this was the project you're working on. Like, I want updates on that. Like, I don't need to hear about your time goal. I need to hear about what is this thing that you are working on outside of that. Like, let's talk about that more.
How do we find and live in balance between the diet culture that's out there and the anti-diet culture, which
Yeah.
is like either shaming you for the eating clean, or
Yes.
drawing you into eating, all of it.
Right. Oh my God. It is. I just wrote a post on this. It is really more of a spectrum, and they make it so black and white of, oh my God, if you order dressing on the side, you are full into diet culture. And it's like, well, no, I don't like my salad soupy, and that is how I order it. And that is fine. I think it's looking at the reason behind the choices that you make. Is it coming from a place of lack and guilt? You're going to know the feeling. Is it coming from a place of guilt? I'm ordering the salad because there's some guilt behind it, or I'm ordering the salad because, oh my God, that salad sounds amazing, and I hadn't made myself a big salad in a week. So to think of, is this what I really want? And I think people are always shocked. Oh, if I just eat whatever I want, I'm going to eat ice cream every day for breakfast. And maybe you will do that one day, and you're going to be like, that didn't feel great. And go back. Most of us are really actually want generally healthy foods, and to loosen that control, and realize, oh, I didn't need to have all those strict rules anyway. But I think keeping that balance, it goes with that gut feeling. You're going to know, am I starting to count calories again when I wasn't, and I feel like I'm counting them? Why is that? Am I trying to control things? What feels good to you? What feels stress-free? It should be more of an easy relationship, right? With your body, with exercise, with eating. We make it so complicated by putting labels on it. Are you vegetarian? Are you vegan? Or, what are you? And it's like, remove that, just put yourself in the equation, try to listen to your body and see what happens, and see what you gravitate towards.
So what is your advice then for women around the holidays? We've got Thanksgiving coming up and
I can't believe
Christmas.
it. So how so with the
To
holidays coming up?
indulge, not to indulge?
I think, okay, here's what I think about that. I think it's not making choice beforehand of, will I indulge? Because then you almost feel like, I said I'm going to indulge. I said I'm going to look, so I should probably have a second piece of cake. You're just putting more thought into it. I think the less thought you can put into it, the easier it is. And I talked to him about, like, the hunger scale and looking at, okay, I should be starting to eat when I'm like, stomach's starting to growl a little bit. I'm starting to think about food. But sometimes people get really upset. Well, am I at a 4? Am I at a 5? And get really numbered on it. And just looking at it for one more intrinsically of like, or instinctively, what do I actually want? Am I really hungry? And the biggest piece, I think, is giving yourself grace and not making a big deal of it when you get it wrong. Because to eat intuitively, you're going to get it wrong. There are times you will overeat. There are times you will, look, I was planning on, not indulging, and I indulge a little more. I'm kind of uncomfortable. Instead of making up for it, instead of being like, that can't happen again, to say, okay, now I know. And then the next day, I think the less we hang on to it, the easier it is, and the less pressure we put on ourselves. Because otherwise we're analyzing every single choice. Was that the right choice? Am I still hungry? Let yourself get it wrong and be okay with it and move on. And the more you do that, the less you're going to get it wrong, because you don't have all of this pressure upon yourself that you've put there to get it right every time. It's another form of perfectionism, right?
Yeah, and also I think we have to look at, why are we wanting to control everything?
Mm-hmm. What are we afraid is going to happen? Right. Because a lot of it is, oh, I'm afraid if I don't have all these rules in place and follow them, that I'm going to gain 200 pounds overnight. And you know what? When I stopped running, I'm maybe up 10 to 15 from my very leanest and have so much more freedom. I mean, I didn't change into a different person. I'm still the same person. I have less stress around it. But to think of, what is your biggest fear of happening? And then look at, okay, but what's actually more likely to happen? What's really going to happen? Not just my fear. What am I terrified of? What's the reality of, if I remove this control, I think that I'm just going to go off the deep end and be someone who never works out and only eats junk. But like, yourself, that's not going to be you. You're just going to have maybe a little more ice cream than you used to, and you're going to take
What was your fear?
What's my fear?
Yeah.
Oh man. I guess at the beginning it was that I'm not going to like running. And it's funny because it's like, okay, so what happens if then I don't like running? Then like, what's bad about that? That's, if I don't like it, then why would I be forcing myself to do something I don't like? There may be that fear of, and I didn't really get this, but I've heard it from other women, of what will my friends say? I've been the fit one. What will my friends say? They just want you to be fine. They don't. And I think about, if my friend gained weight, I'm not like, oh my God, I think she put on 5 pounds. Like, I could care less. I'm like happy to talk to her. That's all I care about. And so to really put yourself in that reverse position can really help conquer some of those fears of what's actually going to happen. And then what will people actually think? If I was on the outside of this, what would I tell someone else?
Love that. Now, how is your holiday going to look?
That is it's so funny when you said Thanksgiving. I'm like, oh my God, what happened with time? How is that possible? We've kind of been talking about, I don't know. We're talking about, do we have our family? So we're in Asheville, and then my in-laws are in St. Louis, mine are in Kentucky. So we don't have family here. Talking about, do we travel? We might travel around Christmas. Now that my guy, will be closer to 3 at Christmas, it's getting fun to do that at home, to kind of start our own tradition. So we like to do Christmas as a family here, but then we'll probably take a trip because he won't have any daycare after that. And so I'll be driving. Usually we are at my grandma's. It's so different having a young kid and thinking that we're creating the traditions, that it's kind of like a blank slate. It's like, well, what do we want to do? Do we want to take in these family traditions? It's weird not really having like a Friendsgiving or having a big to do with a ton of friends, that it really just is your immediate family. It's such a weird year.
What did you find that surprised you once you gave up all the running? What did you find out about yourself and just your experience?
That's a really good question. What did I find? I guess, I think the biggest, it probably wasn't a surprise, but the biggest thing was how much and I now see other areas of my life I do it in, is that I feel like I need to deserve XYZ. I need to deserve the rest. Well, I had a long run today, so I deserve to eat more. I deserve to sit on the couch and watch TV. And now I look at it in my career of, well, I had a great call with a client today, so like I can sit and read my book for 30 minutes. It's like, okay, why are you equating those things? You can just enjoy your life for, what do you want to do this moment? And honestly, since I've really been examining that, I do, it's like if it's beautiful out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the dog for another walk, or I'm going to sit and read on the porch that I usually don't do. I can finish this later. I'm going to take this time to really do what I want to do. But it's crazy that it took that to change, to make me look at that perspective of why do I have to deserve to do something very basic to sit and watch.
Exactly. That is such an epiphany for everyone out there.
It is.
What would you like to say to all the women listening and men about body acceptance and just, I think that's part of the problem why we were running so much, just that acceptance of yourself in a healthy way.
Right. I think, for one, I think a misconception that I definitely want to say is that body acceptance, body positivity, it's not going to be this epiphany where you hit it one day and you never have a negative thought about your body again. It's gonna pop up. You're gonna see a picture that you don't love about yourself. And that doesn't mean that you don't accept your body. It's when you don't hang on to it. That's where you want to get to. Instead of having it affect your decisions the rest of the day. Well, I didn't like how I looked, so I'm going to eat differently. I'm going to work out harder or do an extra one. Instead, as I don't love how I look in that. All right. And you move on to the next thing. And so it's not this, I can never have a negative thought. I can never want to work out
on yourself.
Right. It's stopping that negative spiral of you look in the mirror and you say, I don't like how my arms look, instead of saying, oh my God, I've always hated them, and look at this and look at this. I need to do something about this. I need to fix it. It's looking and saying, I don't love that. Okay. I guess it's just, I've never liked this. And that's a big thing. There are things that I didn't like about, if I don't like them about my body now, or just everyone has their little hangups. That's not their favorite part, right? A lot of them were the same when I was at my leanest, what my eyes would go to. So I'm like, if I'm having those thoughts then, when I'm not getting a period, then I'm never gonna love it. So can I just accept, I might never love this part of me, and then move on. I think the body acceptance is when you stop trying to stop feeling like you need to fix something.
Now, I also have to say I come from another school of thought too, which is it's okay to self-improve.
Yes.
It's okay for me to say, I like the whole mirror analogy because I want each and every woman to love themselves when they look in the mirror. That's the whole package, the inside out. And when I look in the mirror, because I had to lay off of fitness for a long time, I don't look like that person that stepped on stage. And you're not supposed to look like that in your daily life. That was a stage body. Let me clarify. But when I look at myself and I'm coming back from 3 injuries because I was stubborn, I say to myself, oh, you're looking better. Encouraging words to myself. Oh, your arms are coming back. And when you keep being consistent on just this eating and working out, you'll be back to your normal self. Looking at yourself in this encouraging self-improvement way versus this, I hate that about my body.
Yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, or my thighs are so thick, or like, I think it really is a game changer if you could look in that mirror at yourself in an empowering way. And
Totally.
that's my take.
Totally. And I think that when it comes to making physical changes, something you want to improve upon, it's like I said, it's coming from the place of fixing and controlling, or let's see what I can do. That's more of an exciting, empowered place. One is not going to be riddled with guilt. The other, the controlling, I need to fix something. The diet culture side is guilty, and I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough until this. You're putting things off or not wearing things until you hit that goal. The other way is, this is how I look now. This is something I'm working on, but I'm still going to live my life as if I were at that point already.
I think it's just all about, is this healthy or not healthy? And what are my intentions? And what am I saying to myself? I
Yeah.
think it all comes out in the mirror. So when you look in the mirror, I want you guys to think about this as your homework. What are you saying to yourself? I want you to write it down. And then I want you to ask yourself, would I say this to my neighbor or my best friend? And if not, you have to reframe your language.
Oh my God. And if you have kids, think,
Would you say it to your daughter or your
not
son?
even would you say to them, would you like them to hear you say that about yourself? Because that's a big one for me. Because it's easy to be like, no, of course I wouldn't say that to them. It's like, what if they walked in and they see you say these things about yourself? Oh my God, like, do you want them saying that about themselves? It's such a different way we look at it. And everyone's like, of course not. It's like, you're saying that to yourself daily. And that it's it's the brain. Every time you have that thought, it's deepening the crease. It's just this, reaction that you have over and over again. And if you can change it, and maybe the change, and this really helped me to think about it, is that it's not this 180 from I hate this to I love this. Just inch it up. I hate this to I am okay with this. Start there. Start there and then inch it up. So it's not this lie to yourself. You're not just saying it to say it. You have to believe it, right? So do little inches at a time. It doesn't have to be this transformation overnight, but the more you say it over and over again, it does make a difference. Meditation really helps. I use Insight Timer. They have a ton. You can search for anything. If you look up for body positivity, there are going to be meditations around that will have someone else's voice in your ear guiding you through that as you sit quietly. And that can do a lot, because the more you listen to those, then you're going to start to have those thoughts on your own. And that's the game changer.
So good. I really love this conversation today.
Great.
But it's time for us to say goodbye, guys. So let me ask you, you said you had a freebie, and where can everybody reach you on social media?
Yeah. Well, my website is simplywellcoaching.com. And from there you can schedule. Everyone, please, you are welcome to a free 30-minute, I call it a mindset jumpstart. So we can kind of tackle the biggest thing nagging at you today. Free 30-minute coaching call. I'm on Instagram. It's at Simply Well Coaching. I'm also on Pinterest. It's Live Simply Well. And then my Facebook group, if you're on my Instagram, honestly, you can just join from the link in my bio there. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. It's Simply Well Coaching.
So great. Well, I'm going to leave you guys with this thought, because you actually made me think of it. Inch by inch, everything is a cinch.
Yes. Oh, for everything in life.
Bye, everybody. And thanks for joining us today.